Alright, you guys, well, we are here with the second review video. Starting with question number 15. It's asking us to factor out the greatest common factor. Remember, factor means I need to pull out what the two monomials have in common. So the first thing I do is I look at the whole numbers and I think, what does 4 and 16 have in common? Well, they have a 4 in common. Then I look at the C's and I say, how many C's do they have in common? They have 4 C's in common, so C to the 4th power. So that's what I'm going to pull out as my greatest common factor. Then I open my parentheses and I think, what is left when I pull that out, or when I divide it? When I divide 4 by 4, I just am left with 1. When I divide C7 divided by C4, I'm left with C cubed minus 16 divided by 4 is 4, and then C4 divided by C4 is 1, so I don't have to write that. So this is my final answer. The only difference here is I don't have to write this 1 next to the C cubed if I don't want to. So I'm going to write my final answer over here as C cubed minus 4. Number 16, I'm going to factor out what they have in common. So 4 and 12 have a 4 in common, and then G cubed and G squared have G squared in common. Then I open my parentheses and I think, what is left when I divide? 4 divided by 4 is just 1. G cubed divided by G squared is just G. 12 divided by 4 is 3. G squared divided by G squared is just 1. So this is my final answer. Don't forget, you can always double check your answer by distributing your greatest common factor back in to see if it multiplies to give you your original. 4G squared times G would be 4G cubed. 4G squared times 3 would be plus 12G squared. That gives you your original, what you started with, so you're good to go. Number 17, I'm looking at my whole numbers. What does 3, 6, and 21 have in common? Well, they have a 3 in common. And then I look at my p's. I've got p cubed, p squared, and just regular p. So they all have 1 p in common like that. And then I open my parentheses and I figure out what's left over. 3 divided by 3 is just 1. P cubed divided by p would just be p squared. 6 divided by 3 is a positive 2. P squared divided by p is p. Negative 21 divided by 3 is a negative 7. And p divided by p is just 1. So this is my final answer. Again, if you wanted to double check yourself, you can multiply that back through. Make sure you get what you started with. Number 18. What is the product of these two sets? I like to use the FOIL method, so I'm going to do the first times the first to get 16 squared, because 4 times 4 is 16. X times x is x squared. Then I'm going to multiply the outside times the outside. 4x times 5 is positive 20x. Then a negative 5 times 4x is a negative 20x. Negative 5 times 5 is a negative 25. I combine like terms, positive 20x and a negative 20x cancel. And I'm just left with 16x squared minus 25. What are the solutions of 5r squared minus equals a negative 20r? If I'm looking for the solutions, then that means I need to set it equal to 0. So I'm going to move this 20r over to this side with the 5r squared. I'm going to rewrite my problem, 5r squared plus 20r, set it equal to 0. Whenever you're looking for the solutions or for the roots, you want to set it equal to 0. Then you want to factor out what they have in common. 5 and 20 have a 5 in common. R squared and R have an R in common. When I divide 5 by 5, I just get 1. When I divide R squared by R, I just get R. 20 divided by 5 is 4. R divided by R is just 1. So that's my new equation. Then, once I have it here, to find my solutions, I need to set each piece equals 0. 5R equals 0, and R plus 4 equals 0. And I can solve each one for what R is. To solve my first one, for R, I just divide by 5 on both sides. Divide by 5. So R equals 0. To solve for the next one, I just need to subtract 4 from both sides. R equals a negative 4. So those are my two solutions to this equation, R equals 0 and R equals a negative 4. Problem number 20 is asking for the roots of this equation. Just like our solution, roots means I need to set each piece equal to 0. So you get u minus 8 equals 0, and u plus 6 equals 0. And then I'm going to solve for what u could be. In order to solve for u here, I add 8 to both sides. U equals 8. To solve for u here, I subtract 6 from both sides. U equals a negative 6. Those are my two options for u, or my two roots for that equation. Number 21 is a little bit of a word problem. It says, your neighborhood is having a block sale, and you are designing an advertising banner with the dimensions shown. Write the polynomial that represents the perimeter of the banner. Perimeter means I'm adding all the sides. So if this side is x plus 2, then I know this one would be 2. If this one is 4x minus 3, then so is this one. And for perimeter, I'm just going to add all those sides. So I get x plus 2 plus x plus 2, 4x minus 3 plus 4x minus 3. I'm just adding all those sides up. Then I combine my like terms. The first thing I'm going to do is combine all my x's. I've got x plus x is 2x, plus 4x is 6x, plus 4x is 10x. Then I combine my whole numbers. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 minus 3 is 1. 1 minus 3 is a negative 2. So I get p equals 10x minus 2. This is the simplest it can be because I haven't been given what x is. So this is my polynomial that represents the perimeter of the banner. The next one we need to do is write a polynomial that represents the area of the banner. Area means I need to multiply length times width. So I'm going to multiply x plus 2 times 4x minus 3. In order to multiply here, I like to use FOIL. First times the first, x times 4x is 4x squared. Outside times the outside, x times a negative 3 is a negative 3x. Inside times the inside to get positive 8x. Last times the last, 2 times a negative 3 is a negative 6. I want to combine like terms, so negative 3x plus 8x comes out to a positive 5x. So that is my final answer because everything is reduced. Ask what area of the banner when x is 3. What I'm going to do is take area equation and begin, instead of an x, I'm going to put in a 3. The area equals 4 parentheses 3 squared plus 5 parentheses times 3 minus 6. The first thing I'm going to do is exponent. 3 squared is 9. So you get 4 times 9 plus 5 times 3 minus 6. The next thing I'm going to do is multiplication. 4 times 9 is 36 plus 5 times 3 is 15 minus 6. Then I'm going to do the addition and then the subtraction. 36 plus 15 comes out to 51 minus 6 comes out to 45 centimeters squared for area. That's my final answer. Alright, last page. What is the greatest monomial factor of 32f7 minus 16f squared? In order to find the greatest common factor, you have to think, what does the whole numbers have in common? Well, 32 and 16 both have 16 in common. So I would factor out a 16. Then I would look at my f's and I would think, what does f raised to the 7th power and f squared have in common? Well, they have an f squared in common. From there, you open your parentheses and figure out what you have left through division. 32 divided by 16 leaves me with 2. F to the 7th power divided by f squared leaves me with f to the 5th power. Negative 16 divided by 16 leaves me with a negative 1. F squared divided by f squared is just f squared, is just 1. So you're good with that 1 there. So the greatest monomial factor of this equation here is 16 f squared. 25 is asking for the roots. Again, whenever we're looking for roots, the first thing we need to do is set it equal to 0. So I'm going to move this x over by adding it to both sides and rewriting 6x squared plus x equal to 0. Then I factor out the greatest common factor. 6 and 1 don't have anything in common except just a 1. X squared and x have one x in common, so I'm going to factor that guy out and see what I have left. 6 divided by 1 is just 6 still. X squared divided by x is x, and then x divided by x is just 1. So from here you set each piece equal to 0. X equals 0, and 6x plus 1 equals 0. This equation is already solved for one root. The next equation, to solve for the root, you want to solve for x, so first subtract 1 from both sides. You get 6x equals a negative 1. Then to solve for x, you would divide by 6 on both sides. So the other root is that negative 1/6. X equals 0 and x equals a negative 1/6. Number 26. It says write a polynomial that represents f of x times g of x. If f of x is negative 3x squared and g of x is 2x cubed plus 7x minus 3. All you want to do is multiply those two equations. That's all it's telling you to do. Take f of x and multiply it by g of x. So negative 3x squared times 2x cubed plus 7x minus 3. In order to multiply, I'm just going to distribute to each piece. Negative 3x squared times 2x cubed. I multiply the numbers. Negative 3 times 2 is a negative 6. Then I multiply the x's. X squared times x cubed is x to the 5th. Then I multiply negative 3x squared times 7x. So I multiply the numbers. Negative 3 times 7 is a negative 21. Then I multiply the x's. X squared times x is x cubed. Then I distribute it one more time to that negative 3. And I multiply the numbers. Negative 3 times negative 3 is a positive 9. X squared times, I don't have any x's, so I just leave him as x squared. This is a polynomial that represents those two functions multiplied together. Alright guys, well that's it for Unit 8 review. I hope that helps. Please come see me for tutoring if you need more help. I will be here before and after school on Tuesdays and Thursdays, as well as Friday morning.